we are really happy to be here in this panel about the body and philosophical practice. Today we will be José Barrientos, Narel Archidiácono, Lydia Amir, and me, David Zumiacher. Guro Hansen, she had some personal troubles. She couldn't assist to all the conference, and we sent to her many regards. But well, I would like to present all the panelists at the beginning, and then we will have 15 minutes for every of you, Lydia, Pepe, and Narel, and me. I will advise you 5 minutes before finishing, and then 1 minute before finishing. And also I give a welcome to all the people that is here. Well, I will say just some words of the curriculum of the panelists. We have really good speakers in this space. Also, something important is that we will have some time at the end for a dialogue, like 25 or 30 minutes to exchange ideas. So I want to say something about Pepe Barrientos, about José Barrientos. He is professor of the University of Sevilla in Spain. Also, he is coordinator of the international project Boesio of philosophy in prisons. And he is author and promoter of philosophical practice in many countries with a really huge production. Now we have the last books of Pepe, and they are really interesting proposals. You could find them in Spanish. I don't know if in English we have them, Pepe. Yes, we have them. Okay, wonderful. After you tell us how to find them. Also, we have here Narel Archidiácono. She is half from Australia, half from Italy. Mainly, she lives in Australia, I think. She is creator of the methodology of dramatic philosophy. She is an international speaker and author of diverse texts well linked with this topic, formator of this proposal of dramatic philosophy in Australia, Italy, and many countries. I really appreciate to have Narel here because her proposal and work is really original and really interesting for the philosophical practice and philosophical practitioners. So welcome, Narel. And also we have here Lydia Amir, that is one of the main reference in philosophical practice nowadays. She is a tireless promoter of our practice and also president of the Israeli Association of Philosophical Practice, also with Ora Gruengard. She is professor of the University of Boston, and also, well, a person who has many good ideas, linking also philosophical practice with academic philosophy. That is something really important. Just to say something really short about me, I am general director of SECAPF International, that has seats in Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, and Italy. I am president of the Mexican Association of Philosophical Counseling. I am guest professors in some universities, and author of some texts in philosophical practice. I also work in the field, and for me is really a pleasure to be here in this second edition of this 16th ICPP. I really believe in the importance of these reunions and in the importance of the dialogue, and this part of my work. So I don't want to take more time for the beginning. I would like to give the word to all the speakers that we have today. So Jose, the word is yours. Come on. I think your mic is off.
Okay, thank you very much, David, for the presentation, for the invitation to be here with you in a not very strange title, but it is not my theme, my thing experience, but it is very related to the body. That is your topic in philosophical practice. And as you said, I have 15 minutes from here. And for when I started to think, what can I say about body and philosophical practice? And I thought that the body is something important in our work, because of the thing that you are seeing now. I suppose that you are watching my presentation, and as you know, here you have the COVID-19. That is the reason, because I am not in Russia. We are not in Russia. I think that it is very important to know how there are some body politics or body policies, and how can we work with that thing in philosophical practice, because in some occasion, body is not a good thing, but a bad thing. So in 15 minutes, I am trying to talk about biopolitics, a concept developed by Foucault, but in last years by Agamben, for example, Giorgio Agamben or Roberto Esposito from Italy. Then I am going to talk about some body politics or body policies we are living in, like stigmatization and several examples. And at the end, I am trying to talk about some answers, some solutions, some devices in order to carry out, to face the problem of body politics or biopolitics where we are living now. What is biopower and what is biopolitics? If you go to Michel Foucault, Roberto Esposito, Giorgio Agamben, and more people, as I said, for me, philosophical practice is philosophy, and therefore we have to study philosophy. And if you go to these authors, Michel Foucault said in one of his best books, Surveillance and Punishment, that for a long time, society has tried to control people by means of body. And this is a reason because a lot of people that were against power, against the king, against the government, they punish their body in order to control them. But in the last years, in the last centuries, they discovered that the main point, the important thing, is not just to control the bodies. The point is to control the soul. And how can we control the soul? And now, with COVID-19, we have a good example of how governments are controlling bodies and are controlling people, and even they are controlling souls. How can we control people or bodies? I am going to put an example of Michel Foucault, and he said that we can vaccinate society against insects. And for a long time, there are many ways to do it. For example, there were some policies in order to control the people who have sex with their fathers or their brothers or their sisters. In addition, there were, second one, moral discourses against insects, and it was another way to control this situation. And in addition, there were some discourses that links people who commit incest with monsters, the people who have sex with his daughter was a monster, and it is another way to stigmatize, to create a stigma in people in order to control their bodies, their souls. And even there are more nuanced devices, more small devices, like, for example, to create male and female bedroom in the house. And we can see why when we have a sister and a brother, normally if we are a man, we are going to sleep in the same bedroom that our brother, but not in the same bedroom of our sister. And the reason is because it is a way that the government, that the power is going to control people. Or even parents and sons or daughters, mainly daughters, are going to sleep in separate bedrooms. So this is a way to control people by means of a physical instrument that is the distribution, for example, of a house. But we have more ways to control people. That is by means of imagine that you want that people obey rules, and of course, you can create some moral rules. You can stigmatize the people who break the rules. For example, in last days here in Spain, there is a stigmatization of teenagers because they are having a lot of relation with their friends, and a way to control there is to stigmatize there and say that they are the main problem now with COVID, because they have a lot of relationship. Or even, for example, to be trained to write a beautiful letter. And Foucault said, be careful, because when you were a student, your professor tried that you write a beautiful letter, and he said this is the starting point to control your body. Why? Because you learned how to control your emotion, how you control the position of your body. So to be trained in writing a better letter is a way to control the society. Or even CCTV cameras in our cities, or more than that. For example, to say people that if you are a bad person, you are going to be in prison, is another way to control our bodies. Here you have, for example, some image of how to control people by means of creating some fears. Or, for example, you have these photos in order to create control in people. And I am not saying that control is bad. I am saying that this is a way to control people. Or even maybe some of you, I have one, have a Fitbit, and it is a way to control ourselves, how many steps we have to do in all days. Or even if you publish some images in social networks, it is a way that you control some idea of your body. So there are a lot of devices and techniques. I'm not going to talk about it, but you can see about it. I am going to finish with some answers. What can we do? How many minutes do I have, David?
You have more time, Pepe.
Yeah.
You have like 8 minutes more.
How many? 10?
8 minutes.
Okay, good. So how can philosophical practice help us in order to fight against this control? I repeat, control is not bad, because control is a way to allow us to make something. For example, if you want to study philosophy, you need to have control of your body for 2 hours in order, for example, to hear a lecture. So this is control, and this is not bad. If you don't have that control, you cannot, for example, study philosophy. Anyway, the problem is that when another people is controlling us and we don't know. How can we do in that situation? First of all, to know that all of us depends on hidden ideologies or hidden presupposition. So if we use critical thinking, it is important that we discover these ideologies or presupposition. Some of them, for example, related to justice, was was Lydia Amir was talking about it yesterday, and I think that this is important to know what are the hidden ideologies and presuppositions in our lives, in our life. Second, we have to recognize that it is not possible to live out of those ideologies. Always we are going to live in some ideologies. It is not possible to live outside of them. However, we have to know that we live in some ideologies, inside some some feelings, and this is a reason because our ideas in some occasion are not coming from us. Our ideas coming from some social interest. And in addition, there is an author, an Italian author, Mario Pagnola, that talks about sensologies. What is a sensology? The same than an ideology, but the Pagnola said that in some occasion we feel on some feelings that don't belong to us. For example, if I said to you, imagine that you are seeing a film, a movie in the television, and there is the picture of a young teenager seen by the window of his house, and there is rain hitting the window. And if I ask for you, what is the feeling that picture create in you? It's not happy. It's not happiness. Normally, it's sadness. Why do we feel sadness with this picture? The rain hitting the window in a Sunday evening. Why we feel sadness and we don't feel happiness? Because we live inside sensologies. However, it is possible, in addition, and I'm finished now, it is possible, in addition, to question what kind of light create the structure where we live in. For example, what kind of life is creating the space of our work? It is not the same that the walls are of crystal than the walls are of another time. In the distribution of our classroom, makes that we live in some kind of world. The time, why do we need to go to holidays in these days in the North Pole? Why do we need holidays now? What is the interest of the capitalism that holidays exist? Why do we need? Why do we feel the lack of holidays in some situation? Or, for example, people, why do we dislike or like some people? We have decided that thing or not. Philosophical counseling and philosophical practice can help us to discover this reason. Or, for example, to be aware of the devices of body power or body politics, like Fitbit, a gymnasium, or the like. In Boecio, we try to work with this thing in our project in Philosophy in Prison by means of some exercise in order to be aware of these elements that are part of our life and the feelings that are not from our life. As I said, this is not a way to destroy body politics or biopolitics, but to control over it, because control, as I said, is not bad, but control without conscience means that someone is ruling over ourselves and we lose autonomy, and this is bad, that we don't rule over ourselves. So this is all. I have talked about what is biopolitics or biopolitics and how is the relationship with body politics. I have given some examples and some ideas to work with this body politics inside a philosophical counseling or a workshop on philosophical practice. Thank you very much, and that's all.
Thank you very much, Pepe. Thank you, Pepe. You finished 2 minutes before. Wonderful. We have more time at the end for the dialogue. So, Narel, it's your turn. You're welcome. I think your microphone is off. Can you listen, Narel? Or is it me? I think you have to activate the microphone, Narel, that is the down part of the screen. No.
In the red button.
No.
This is the camera.
She switched on the other REM button. So she's out, I think so, now.
Yeah, I think she's still here, but without camera. Oh, I think that she has gone, yeah. Well, maybe we could continue with Lydia in the time Narel come again. I think she has to enter again. So, Lydia.
Can you hear me? Is the mic on?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, David, for inviting me to this session, and thank you, Jose, for opening the topic of the body to issues that transcend the body. Let me just begin by saying that in my case as well, the body is not my topic. Usually, I have written 2 books on philosophical practice, Rethinking Philosophy Responsibility and Taking Philosophy Seriously, and the body does not appear them. But I've also edited 2 anthologies on philosophical practice, and one of them indeed puts sexuality on the philosophical practitioners' agenda, but I would hesitate to call sexuality something of the body. Yeah. So this is a wider topic, but I am very grateful. I'm very moved that philosophical counseling movements begins to pay attention to the body, because if we saying that philosophical practice is about life, not only theoretical thought, then the people that we are seeing and the people we are talking to are living people. And living people have bodies, and the body has a place in our being, our life, much more important that we tend to assign to it in philosophy. And this is what should be, I think, enlightened first by the philosophical practitioners themselves, in their own experiences, following the panel that we had on philosophical practice and the arts. We talked about drama, we talked about dancing, yes? So we should reflect about the importance of expression, movement, and feeling the body and learning through the body. Yes, Mike?
I just wanted to point to Nelly that she finds the red circle with the symbol of the microphone when it's her turn.
Okay, so I would like to say something more about dancing and about movement and about feeling and thinking through the body. Then I would like to say something about the importance of the body in general in some philosophers that we usually do not mention, just to acknowledge the importance of the theme. Then I would like to offer philosophical practitioners a way of working with the body that is different from the arts. So, following on what Pepe said just now, it's not only in prison and in sexuality that our body is being controlled or our souls are being controlled through the body. I don't know if you noticed, but in normal society, even now, our movements are controlled. When Mike moved a little bit in front of my camera, I said yes, because he's supposed not to move. And we are supposed to have this lecture sitting straight and looking there. And this is absolutely not normal. When you are in any public place, you're supposed to queue without moving. You cannot make movements with your hands. If you make movement with your feet, like jumping from one to the other, it looks bizarre. Your body is constantly restricted without need, because there is no problem for people in a queue to make movements, to do whatever they want. Without need, your body is restricted as if you were a baby in the 19th century that were like that with the arms. You cannot make, in many cultures, especially European culture, big movements with the hand. You cannot talk with the hand. Even with the face, there are some expressions that you can do. In some culture, you cannot laugh without putting, especially if you're a woman, a hand in front of the mouth. And this restriction of the body, since we are young, even if we are not in jail, sit straight, don't talk while eating, yes, don't laugh too hardly, don't make these huge movements, keep moving, keep your feet from moving. All these restrictions restrict us unnecessarily. So we have to think about that as philosophers. What's the purpose? What is so disturbing for other people to see a person move freely? Why not accept the natural tendency of the body to need movement? A body is alive as long as there is movement in it, and as long as it's capable of showing some movement inside or outside. Why is it so frightening for people to see movement? Is it so unexpected? Is it something that looks threatening? Is there a special space around your body that you're not supposed to trespass? Why is the space so limited? Why can't you have 2 or 3 meters around you in which you can move as you wish? Why is bodily expression forbidden in our societies? And you have to go to special places in order to dance 1 hour once a week. And you dance at this time, like boxing, like aggressivity. I don't know, not before, not after. Then it should be finished. Why do we need to have yoga laughter in the mornings? Are exercises, you come, you laugh, and then that's it. So please, if we can begin thinking about the way our bodies are unnecessarily controlled, not talking even about sex, not talking about anything shameful, not talking about doing this or doing this at the same time. I'm just talking about the capacity of moving in society much more freely. So this is one topic I would like philosophical practitioners, if they find interest in that, and if they're trying to liberate or think about the things that oppress what Jose called the soul, why oppress the body at all? Yes, first. So why am I putting this emphasis in this relationship between body and soul? Because there is another tradition in philosophy, not necessarily Stoic. It's true that the Stoics themselves were physicalists. They never thought of the soul as not material. We have to know that. All Hellenistic philosophies thought of the body and the soul, even if different, in material, physicalist terms. This is important. But the Epicureans that also talk about the soul said it's material. Yes, the Epicurean had an influence in Western philosophy that has been a little bit diminished because the Epicureans were not well understood. They were understood as if they were emphasizing any kind of pleasure, hedonism, and no other responsibility. These are not the Epicureans. The Epicureans are almost ascetics when it comes to the body. It's the Cyrenaics and other philosophers who emphasize the pleasure for the moment. So when we take the Epicureans, Epicurus, and Lucretius in the Roman time, which is a little bit different, and especially Montaigne who continues this tradition, Michel de Montaigne of the Renaissance. And then Nietzsche, who tries, at least in words, to talk according to that. Even before Spinoza, I will talk a little bit about that. And continuing into the 20th century, in which French philosophers, Merleau-Ponty and others have taken the body as their topic. Jean-Luc Nancy has written a book on touching. Sartre, of course, talked about the body. I want to enlighten this tradition and to ask what it can do for us in philosophical practice. Michel de Montaigne said, "We are marvelously corporal." Who said that in the 21st century? Nobody. Who said that in philosophical practice movement? Nobody. Corporal and marvelous doesn't come together, but we are marvelously corporal. Why doesn't it come together? Maybe because, as Spinoza said, we do not know what the body can do. We refer to the soul or to other agency, many things that maybe the body does, and we don't know. We just recently began to observe what the mind, what the brain maybe can do. And unless you look at things, unless you have an hypothesis that this may be a brain process, you will never try to look there. So let's be all a little bit humble about the body's possibilities, that we don't know what it can do. You know that for Spinoza, talking in bodily terms and talking in mental terms are two languages that describe the same process. There is one process that we don't know what it is. Yeah, it's God or nature. But we have two ways of apprehending it as human beings. There are infinite ways. One way is through the body extension, and the other is through thought or feeling. So when we talk psychology, psychiatry, philosophy, it's a parallel language to when we talk in bodily terms. So if we see life through these prisms, we understand that while we talk a lot about thoughts and feelings, we know less about the equivalent in the body. So it's a call for trying for every philosophical practitioner to try to have a more interesting, fulfilling experience with his or her own body. Not as the Buddhists offer us, not by meditating and paying attention to what's going on. I'm not against Eastern views of meditation or enlightenment being brought to the West. I just say we can develop, and maybe should within this movement develop, new other possibilities with the body, or exercises or ways of reaching it, with another kind of goal. In the Buddhist setting, the original one, which I respect very much, the goal is nirvana, the goal is liberation. And even if you take a somewhat less ambitious goal and you go for quieting, relaxation, this may be different from what I'm talking now. I'm talking about knowing better your body and what it can do. This has been developed in the West by two people. One of them is known by the name of Alexander. He created the Alexander method that helps you be aware of what your back is doing and how you sit and how you walk, etc. This has helped to solve or reduce the pain or the problematics of many bodily things. And as Montaigne said, when my body suffers, I don't know why, that my soul suffers as well. Do not forget that. I hope we'll have a meeting on pain in philosophical practice. We never addressed that as well, physical pain. But not only Alexander method was created in the West, but also Feldenkrais method, which was created in Israel. And in one of the philosophical practices conferences in Denmark, Schusterman, I think, was invited. He developed a soma aesthetic. He is also a teacher of Feldenkrais along his philosophical views. But Feldenkrais is a way of putting Spinoza in practice. It tells you to pay attention to what your toe can do, to what your feet can do, to do the movements from other directions, and to see how it influences the way you think. Yes, even if you now make an exercise and in your feet you put one I don't know how you call it, one finger of the foot on the toe, not where it should be, or even in the hands, do that. You feel something very strange. It's not only the body feeling is changed, but your feeling, your thought, your being is changed. So we should develop ways in which people either come to us, move together, dance together, develop exercises in which they begin to experiment with their body and feel it and see how it changes, their thought and their mind. Nietzsche said that, following maybe Montaigne. Montaigne gave some ideas. He said, when I have pleasure, I try to put the soul to help me enjoy more the pleasure. I need it to focus on that. There is some kind of work and discipline with the body, not only to control it, but to enjoy it and to expand it, that we should learn as well and maybe teach as well. And when I said Nietzsche said that, Nietzsche said, sometimes peace of mind, maybe all the time, it's just good digestion. Yes, we should go into that. So if peace of mind is good digestion, maybe when the temperature is good outside, when you don't have pain in the body, you are so happy you are not aware of that. So making the effort, like the Epicurean said, to pay attention that we are now very, very happy because we are not hungry, we are not thirsty, we are not cold, and we have friendship in philosophical counseling and discussion. It pays attention to that. Always looking out, this consciousness, this imagination that goes for other possibilities. There are no other possibilities than pure happiness. And at this moment, you are completely happy and you don't know that. So paying attention to the body needs being satisfied easily.
Lydia.
Yes.
Sorry, we are on time.
Yes, so let me just
There's something
finish.
to close? Yes, okay.
Paying attention to the body is an easy satisfaction and not to the mind running away to possibilities, brings you immediate happiness. My proposal, I'm very glad I didn't have time to offer it, is so extreme, what I want to offer, knowing the other through touch, developing some kind of Western Tantra will be for another time. Maybe we'll do a retreat on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lydia. Thanks for your presentation. Now we give the word to Narel Archidiácono. So Narel, can you hear us? Let's try to put the mic on without going the session. Is the mic button that is in the down part of the screen? I see the button on the left part, in the down part. Just no, she has gone again. Okay. Well, we are dealing with technological things, but I hope Narel can return soon. Well, I will continue. So we hope that we can have Narel at the end. Well, so I will continue with some topics that Pepe and Lydia were talking. But Narel, let's try again. do not put the red button, because red button is to go out of the reunion. Is the mic button.
David, maybe
Yeah.
Naren cannot hear you. Write to her an email and explain.
I think she's listening. You can hear me, Narel? Yes.
Okay.
The mic button is, if you see your screen, is on your, no, I think she has gone again. Oh, it's a shame. Maybe Regina, if you could explain Narel in the chat exactly where is the button, maybe.
Yes.
When she returns again. Well, I will start to not lose more time, and then we go with Narel. Well, I was saying that I would like to continue some ideas of Pepe and Lydia about the body, but also I would like to add some general conceptions that I consider are really important in general for philosophy, but also for philosophical practice. The first is that in this moment, we really need conceptions of human that have into consideration the physiology and also the biology, but not in a determinist way. Basically is to take into consideration our own materiality. This is really important because bring us inescapable considerations or ideas for the development in philosophy, and also to do any philosophical practice. Well, nowadays I see too many students or colleagues that are working in the field, but sometimes they don't know how to put a direction in their works, in what they do. Because rationality allowed us to go to all directions. That is a problem that we see normally in the formations that we give in SECAPFI, for example. Some students see that they can go to all places, they can make all questions, they can take all paths, because without the consideration of body and life, life of the person who is coming, for example, as Achenbach also considered in his conception of philosophical practice, without the consideration of life of the other that is linked, is really very linked with the body, we cannot know where to go. For this reason, is really, really important. And to maintain this intention of Nietzsche, Lydia also mentioned Nietzsche's ideas, to demolish the ancient murs between nature and spirit, or between man and animal, or between moral and physics. No? This is really revolutionary for a lot of our conceptions that in our common sense continue dividing the being in two big spheres. For example, as we see medicine and psychology, or as you see spirit and physics. No? So to retake the body help us a lot to consider some fundamental elements, and also take us to start again from the senses, as lot of part of philosophy has done, taking the touch sense also as a main, a really, really primitive sense, and also considering the feelings, because the touch sense is the first of our senses. It exists when we have just 3 centimeters of length. We have touch sense. We don't have ears, we don't have eyes, but we have a touch sense, and we respond to the stimulus that we can receive, and we move ourselves if someone touch us. The touch sense appear more or less in the same moment as our body appear. For this reason, it's really important. Also, the location of the touch sense is different from of the other senses. For example, the sight, the taste, smelling, they have specific organs. Sometimes it says that touch sense is in the skin, but this is not true, because the touch is in all the body. For that reason, we can sense pain, stomach pain, for example, but it's not the skin. No? There is a deep relation between the touch sense and the feelings. And this is something that is really in the base of the beings. That is something that studied a really interesting thinker I recommend you, that is Ashley Montagu. He's a UK thinker that studied a lot the touch sense, and also Antonio Damasio, that is really well known nowadays, studying the relations of our internal neural connections and the capacity of touching ourselves and feeling and have sensations. The relation of all those concepts are is really important for philosophy and philosophical practice in general. And the other point that I would like to mark is the origin, the corporal origin of language. This is another really important point for philosophy and also for philosophical practice, is trying to study the materiality of language, as Foucault has done. I know that Foucault is controversial. I was reading the chat, but it's a really important point. It doesn't matter Foucault or not Foucault, but the important is the materiality of the language. And if we study the materiality of the words, we see that the words are produced because we do movements of our larynx, of our tongue, of our lungs. And in this way, we produce the sounds that with which we pronounce the words. Also, we produce words generating movements with our hands. So the ways we show or we present language is through images, through sounds, through textures. These three ways are the ways we present or express language. And also this materiality of our language is received through senses for the others. The others are perceiving this materiality. So this is independent of the process, of the cultural process, of the arbitrary process, as Saussure said, of interpretation, decodification, the things that studied Wittgenstein, for example. Finally, observation and consideration, and to perceive this rooting of language, in this basis, is what allowed that we can make, or we can do, or we can perform a good use of language in philosophy and also in philosophical practice, because words, they are not without bodies that are living things. The important, anyway, is the repercussion of the words in the bodies. So for all those reasons, the relation between language and body is really important to be considered. And to finish, I would like to add the corporal actions. That is all what we do to think, to feel, to talk, to perceive, to act, is done through the body, because in any moment we are outside of our body. But corporal actions are a movement, a non-linguistic movement of relation with exteriority. Is something different of feeling or something different of talking. It's a non-linguistic movement of relation with exteriority, and it's a very particular thing, and also very fundamental, for example, to survive. But not only for that, because also to fulfill ourselves as persons, to concrete any kind of things, we need to move our body and to relate them with the world and with the others. We need to touch, to move, to affect, and to affect also ourselves with reality and through and with the others. Nowadays, for any philosopher or philosophical practitioners who has commitment with his reality, it's really important not only what we think or what we talk, but also what is happening in persons or in people's lives, and which actions are affected, what is transformed in what the persons or the groups are doing in the world. So this has to do with the corporal actions that we can also work as part of philosophical practice, as I think that maybe Narel will tell us something about it. Finally, to finish, I really believe that to consider the body is to give life to philosophy, something that we urgently really need for the philosophy of the 21st century, to give life again to the theory, also to generate new theory and to transform ourselves. So that's all. Thanks so much. And now that Narel, I heard your clap, so I am really happy for it.
Wonderful.
Go ahead.
Thank you, David. First of all, I'd just like you to indulge me for a few seconds while I dedicate my position here today to the people of this land, the land of the Gubbi Gubbi, the people whose country was inhabited 200 years ago. And I'd like to pay my respect to the elders of the Gubbi Gubbi people, the elders past and present, future and emerging. Thank you. That is a fairly, that is a greeting, an understanding of the First Nations people of Australia that is mostly used as the beginning of any discussion or workshop or so forth. So thank you. Well, my goodness me, really, it was so interesting for me to listen to everybody, and I'm really glad that I couldn't hear before because, well, I could hear everybody speaking, but you couldn't hear me. So I got a lot of information that maybe has just changed my preparation a little. So I will actually, again, if you'll indulge me, give you a bit of a rundown on me and how I got to start to be interested in developing dramatic philosophy. I started my my professional life as a teacher, and I taught for a couple of years in grade school, and then I was offered a position in a hospital school, a teacher in a hospital school. And I took that up, and I then continued in hospital schools for another 5-6 years. And I went from hospital to another institution for young children who were hospitalized in the institution, which wasn't a hospital. Very, very complex set of issues there. So you've made me think that all of that dealing with people with very, very, very severe physical problems has led me to where I am. I'm very, very interested in the body. And I have seen children whose bodies are misshapen, they're not pretty to people, but some of my greatest memories and my most delicious indulgences with young children has been in those settings of hospital schools. And I'm thinking that really has brought me here, part of the way. And then, Lydia, you made me see so much more in my own story. When I left teaching and left teaching in hospital schools, I started at acting school. I wasn't teaching, I was a student in an acting school, a institution for 4 years. And in that situation, Feldenkrais, Lydia, you're probably aware of Christian Linkletter and Freeing the Natural Voice. Again, acting school, the Alexander Method, acting school. So I'm telling you all of this, or I'm sharing this with you all, because of the layer upon layer effect that leads me to philosophy and the body. After acting school, and I worked as an actor for about 10 years in film, television, stage, all of the medium. Oh, and Lydia, and everybody, I have to add to those movement experiences at acting school, tap dancing, which I was dreadful at. Absolutely dreadful. I like to think I'm a really good dancer. Tap dancing, couldn't ever get it. And the other thing at acting school was fencing. So I fancied myself a bit of the fencer. All of these experiences have been about body, have been about sharing the body, have been about working with others in a physical situation. Some of you might know the work of Genet, the playwright and writer, and he wrote a play called Le Balcon, and I was cast as the madam in that play. Now, talk about the body and the physical nature of the body and how far we can push ourselves. I cannot believe that I was ever able to do this. But I was on stage for 3 hours wearing nothing but fishnet stockings and a corselet. And I had 3 hours of dialogue. And I'm telling you this, mentioning this, because I can barely remember my children's name these days, let alone what was I doing there? What were the bodily functions allowing? Yes. Now, yes, acting school, finished acting school. I did lots of work and in community theatre as well. A lot of work with the Indigenous population of Australia. And then I decided I'd have a complete change, and I became a trade union official for Actors Equity. Now, what I think all of that in my mind, from hearing everybody speaking so far, led me to love the idea of hegemony or hegemony, depending on which school you went to, and Gramsci's notion of hegemony, and the fact that Gramsci was able to do so much and achieve so much in Italy because he built connections. He built connections with women, particularly in southern Italy, who had never been included before in any political situation. He also made links with trade union officials. He made links with actors and performers in the community, etc., etc., etc. So, puts me at now, I think, up. And then about 20 years ago, I decided I'd like to become a philosopher. So that gives you some idea of how dramatic philosophy is really quite linked with everything that everybody else has been saying about the body. My frustration at the moment is because I do use the body a lot. David's seen me working with people, and much of what I do depends on physicalization and physical touch. The connections that I'm able to make as an actor pretending to be somebody else, people have started to be very, very comfortable with the characters. They want to hug her. They want to engage with her. So I'm talking about the body as part of everyday life. It's, for me, it's who I am. I always ask permission now before I hug anybody, because it can be I'm not sure about anywhere else in the world, but in Australia it's considered very, very bad form to touch people. So that brings me to now, or just about. I started my philosophical practice in Brisbane, in Australia, in 2006. And of course, all of the background that I had led me to do philosophical counselling in a way that involves touch, respectful touch. So I've developed a way through dramatic philosophy to use it in clinical settings. And I have to give you an example. So I have a young woman who's been coming to me for a long, 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 long time. And I've been with her guidance, I've been able to track the last 4 or 5 years that she and I have been working together. I'll give you an example of something that came up recently. She has a relationship with a young man, and he decided he would like to have a threesome. And she came to me to talk this question through. Should she indulge in this or should she not? How was she feeling? And she didn't know how she was feeling, etc., etc. So what we did was, well, the first question I had for her was, does he mean himself and two women? And of course, she laughed. She said, no, of course not. He saw himself with two women, but certainly the other way around was not to be. There was no question. That just wouldn't happen. So she and I created a scenario where she was talking to him. I was him. So this is what starts to happen when we build a scenario, and based on intuition and an understanding of the client, one can get a really, really, really close, intimate understanding of what's going on, I think. So I then played the role of him, and she was herself talking to him, me, saying, well, I'm uncomfortable about this. I'm not sure if I want to do this. I'm going to talk to Nellie about this. That went over well, not. And so she asked him, me playing the role, and I gave a response that was harsh, really harsh. It's very interesting for me that these scenarios that we produce together, client and me, that things become very real very quickly. David might remember when I was in Mexico City, 2014, David, a long time ago. So I was in Mexico City and I was playing one of the roles that I do, which is a bag lady or a homeless person. And everybody just wants to hug her. They empathize with her so quickly and so deeply. We're able to learn a lot about my favorite thing, empathy, followed closely behind compassion. So that's right, that's absolutely off track with regards to all the notes I made for today. And I've been trying to, I'm just so inspired by what I've heard. I had to make that declaration rather than the wonderful, wonderful things I've written. How long have we got, David?
We are just in time. It's wonderful, Narelle. You are perfect. To leave some. Thank you, Narelle. For now. Now we can open a space of questions and comments. I propose that we have 3 questions and comments, and then the panelists respond. So the microphone is open. You can raise your hand or take directly the word. Mike.
Nora, Nelly, I'm very happy to have had now the possibility to listen to your story. I was making up the word of philodrama without knowing that you had done these things which you sketched now. And it was just David who made me realize that there is, may I say, a grand lady of this kind of bringing back theater into philosophical practice, and I'm very thankful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Who else would like to make a question, add a comment? Yes, hola.
Irena.
Irena, how are you, Irena?
Yes.
Now I see you. Yeah, because I didn't see you.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yes, come on.
I cannot change the name of this Google account.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So for me, it was interesting when Lydia was talking about how we are prohibited to move while talking or whatever. And for me, I felt that there was no mentioning of responsibility that we have. It sounded like they prohibit us, but there are also us who play the game. And I find that we shall consider and bring others in our, like, I speak only about philosophical cafe feel, not about whatever you do, that the question of self-responsibility, because the society is made by each one of us, and it demands a lot of courage. And I can speak from my own experience that since some already noticed that I did moves which were unexpected, not just to do them, but because I am like this, I must say that if we want to change this, we must take the courage to do differently, no matter what whoever prohibits the society, but also take in account that it is risky, yes, and it is sometimes very dangerous, yes, because these old ways are very strict, very old, and we will never change them just by talking about this. We have to take the courage and to know that it can be dangerous for oneself. Yes. And there was one other thing also, Lydia, I forgot, wait, I had 2 points. This one and the other one I forgot, maybe I will remember. Because it was now so difficult for me to say that I forgot the second one. Maybe later.
Okay, let's have one comment more. Thank you, Irena. Thanks so much. Taisia.
Yeah, thank you. I want to comment what Lydia was saying, and not just from a perspective like a client, but from perspective like a practitioner, because she was mentioning like connection between Tantra and philosophical practice, and it amused me because at the moment now I'm starting practicing Tantra myself, because I'm some kind of in a shift of going to the body, like coming back to the body after the decades of being quite apart from it. And it's very interesting that it changed my perception of consulting, because it's I just feel and first feel and understand that it's not working anymore the way it worked before. So I'm just unable to stay simply in critical approach, because I don't feel that way anymore. And it makes me kind of, I don't know, lost maybe in a way, because now I need to apply like the new vision of philosophical practice to my current state. And I'm still wondering which way it should be, which method, which approach. So it goes both ways. Thank you. And I would be really curious about, what would you say, and maybe what materials or ideas or anything, seminars that you can share about connection between Tantra and philosophical practice. It would be marvelous. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Taisia. And also, I think Irena remembered the other point. Yes, Irena?
But I think Lydia wants to say something maybe before.
Well, now we have the comments of the panelists. So if you finish your
okay, thank you.
Your ideas.
Otherwise, I will forget again. The second was that as Lydia spoke about this, it sounded to me, and I must say that when I would maybe speak in the same way, because I have this tendency when I think about it, then I go to like black or white something. But in reality, of course, in real life, it cannot go to opposite extreme that they and us, we can always move in every situation the way we want, because there must be some congruency. For example, I give an example because I understand all theories on examples only. So that is why I give an example. If I intensely talk to a person and expect the attention of this person, and this person would run in front of me like this, you know, there is no congruency, because this physical expression would disturb me, and I am pretty sure that this physical expression would also express exactly what it is, namely that the person is not listening to me, is not attentive. So, of course, we need some congruency. There are boundaries also. It is not only that society prohibits, but for example, if some people in some groups in my long past ago were disturbed that I sit on the floor instead of the chair, that is of course stupid nonsense, because I don't disturb anybody, I sit, I listen. So, but if I would run in circles in the room where a person is representing something and others are listening and watching, and I would run in front of them, then of course that is not congruent, it is disturbing. And so I think that on one hand, this self-responsibility, on the other hand, of course, there are some congruent boundaries, of course. I mean, that was the second point that I wanted to mention.
Great. Thank you, Irena. Well, I think these questions are for Narel and Lydia. So we hear you. Lydia, your mic is off.
Would you like my comments now? Because I saw more hands, Andre and others, so I'll try to be quick.
Okay. We can go with you, or
okay.
We could listen to the others. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me just address this wonderful question. There was something wonderful in Jose or Pepe talk that also put me off record. I didn't talk about what I've prepared. I talked about something else, as Narel did, also thanks to you. So this was wonderful, a wonderful opening. So thank you, Pepe. But now some explanation is needed. First, you're right, Irina. It's first about us. I think that the first thing in the future they would say that we were blind, we couldn't see, was how we ever thought that people sitting for 1.5 hours can learn anything. You know, this is impossible. Every Tuesday at noon, they will open their minds and learn ancient philosophy, and then forget about it for 1 week without moving 1.5 hours. So maybe I need, in order to concentrate, that people do not move, but this is not the way people learn. So this is why I prefer, in my classes, I let people move. I take breaks. I let them put their feet when they want. I know that feeling comfortable with the body is wonderful. I cannot write philosophy if I'm dressed. I don't ask them to be nude, but I'm just saying my own limitation. And this is why in distant learning, I know that they can listen to the talk whenever they want, in which position they want, in each condition. And I think this is conducive to learning. The best lesson I've ever learned was a child was when I took a bath and listened to the tape. It was about burial in ancient Egypt. I forgot everything except that because of this hypnotic state of relaxation in the bath. So this is just to acknowledge what Irina said, that we should begin with ourselves. Of course, some people learn better by moving all the time, but then I have to shut my eyes so that it doesn't bother me. I don't need the person to look into my face, just initial thought. Now, about the most important thing that Tasia said, I wanted to give a lecture about how philosophical practice can, in 5-10 minutes of people touching each other, not me touching the client, we cannot do this, 2 people touching each other, or a couple, or coming back, can tell us what is the view of the self that they got out of it. What is the view of the other? I can see from what they tell me what is the view of the self and the other better than what they would say just by words. What are the view of pleasure and its role in everyday, in the good life? What is intimacy or trust? What's the level of that goes in letting someone touch you on touching another person? What kind of self-knowledge do you have when you're being touched? How you feel about that? Is the touch utilitarian? Do you touch in order to get something, to take something, to get to a point, to pleasure, to sex? Or is it disinterested touch, giving touch, gratitude touch, open touch? From 5 minutes with a person with the touch, I can have a whole page full of philosophical information about the person. I can do it with my partner. I cannot do it with counselees. But if they would do it with each other, maybe at home or come in couple, a lot more information would be given through that. So this is my initial thoughts of Western philosophic Tantra. I don't know if this was helpful, Tasia, but I will continue corresponding with you. Maybe we make a retreat or workshop together on that.
Thank you, Lydia.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lydia. Narelle, do you want to add something?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Again, I've been very, very interested in what everybody has said. And I have to say a great thank you to Pepe also, as well as Lydia, who both changed my presentation completely. And I think one of the things that this forum did was provide a really safe space to be able to talk about issues that sometimes, more often than not, I imagine, are left unsaid. For me, it's all about communication and how you communicate through touch, through sound, through appearance, etc., through my husband's helping me out here, and he was doing a little dance to try and show me, I think, that movement, dance, all of these wonderful corporeal activities. And Lydia, with the people who come to see me, and I know you said you don't touch your clients. I'm terrible. I can't keep my hands off them. So be that as it may, they always ask me if they can give me a hug now. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because I guess we all do things differently and have things that are almost entirely our own way of being. But I can't thank you all enough, and David and the organisers of this wonderful event. I feel so isolated in Australia, I cannot tell you. And if it wasn't for David, I would have probably... yes, almost. It's David, I hope you can wear this, because you take no notice of me when I say I'm so sick, I can't do that. And he takes no notice. And that's wonderful, David. Yes, I know sometimes you do, I'm exaggerating. But yes, for you to be out there working with people is wonderful. And everybody, and Mike. Tell me the name again of your work with philosophical counselling and dramatic intent. No.
Wonderful.
No. Yeah. So, not sure if I responded to anybody's question, but there you go.
Thanks, Narelle.
A big hug.
Oh,
A big hug. Yes.
I think the virtuality put our necessity of body contact into the discussion and put the body more into as a topics we need to discuss and to think, to consider touching and to consider closeness. We have a really short time. Regina is seeing me through the camera intensely, but also we have Oscar, Andre, and also I saw other hand. I don't know if we can have a really short participations.
Yeah, okay. let them speak.
And Jamini, sorry, Jamini, I forgot you. Well, let's go with maybe Oscar, Jamini, Andre. We hear you.
Your microphone.
Really short participation. Oscar, okay, let's go.
Okay, very quick. My question is for Lydia. Lydia, you mentioned Feldenkrais, which to me is a wonderful exercise to raise awareness. So my question to you is, how can we as philosophical practitioners incorporate this awareness into the philosophical consultation? I mean, first into us and then on our counselees.
Yeah. David, would you want me to answer? Would you want to take more questions?
We will listen to all questions,
yeah.
And then we go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, Oscar, is just that or something else?
That's it for now. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Jamini?
Hello. I have a lot of questions, but I'll only ask one. So my question is more of a comment. Like Lydia and Tasia mentioned about Tantra. So I believe that whenever any tradition starts to get, it's born, it's very fresh and there's a lot of potential, because I believe that the Tantra I study or I practice, there's a lot of variety of it, but the way Western countries perceive it is very different, or the way Eastern people are trying to present it to Western people is very different. It is being sold like a commercial, transition. It should be very attractive, and a lot of parts are cut off just because they want Western people to accept it, or I hope you understand. And the second thing is the research and the things that go on here are different because we are trying to preserve a tradition. We are not trying to practice it. So because practice, a lot of people are scared because of there are so many misconceptions about this is scary, tantra is like that, dark something. But it is everyone has a version of their own, and I think if Western countries also have their version of own, it would be a new birth of a system. And it has a very good potential with philosophical practice. Like we talked about so many great things about physicality, and in tantra they want a lot of physicality to be involved. So if you make up
Thanks.
a new workshop, please invite me too.
Wonderful, Jamini. Thanks for your participation. I will read quickly the participations on the chat. Kati Kula said, intriguing presentation, such a wide approach to the subject. Thank you. Important points to think about for practitioners. Physical rudeness and rituals repetitions are also philosophical practices, life as themselves. Why not moving together for inviting and broadening thinking? Sometimes, for example, a small shift in position is enough to change perspective. Hacks. And also, Andre is saying, my apologies, David, but I will need to leave this workshop. I will leave a couple of questions here, and if you could please address them, I will watch the recording afterwards. First, Nelly, how do you identify when it would be helpful, appropriate during a session to engage the kind of role-playing which you described? And then the second for me and Nelly, is it possible to mix a bit of body work with more classic philosophical counseling? And that's all. So we are on time. Just to short responding. Who want to go first? Let's go.
Maybe David, you answer, address a question, then go back to Nelly, and then maybe I can say a few words.
Okay, and also maybe Pepe can say something in general. Well, about this combination of classic philosophical counseling that is more discursive practice. I think that with corporal practice, with corporal actions and body practices, I think that the first point is to understand that all uses of languages are using also the body. This is the first and the conceptions to have when we are speaking and when we are using words. And the second is to start seeing the wide possibilities that we have when we are interacting with the other, and all the big philosophical possibilities that we can have using the body. To understand why or how we could include these body practices inside philosophical practice, I think that is really important to see what is happening when we use the body. When we are reaching a deep sense, when we are constructing something linked with the identity of the person, for example. If we are in this line, if we are looking for this syntony about how to create a philosophical sense in our interactions, we can combine perfectly actions, exercises, characters, or whatever we want to do with the body, with a discursive practice. The important is to see the general sense. Yeah, that's all. Maybe Pepe, you would like to continue and to say something, and then we go with Lydia and finish with Narel.
Okay, thank you very much. I am just a little tired, so it's good for me not to have to answer a lot. But anyway, I think that body is more than body, it's the experience of body. And I think that in 20th century, we have discovered that point, body is more than a physical thing. And second, for me, there is a question because more than an answer, because in some occasion I am listening the word body, and for me it's a lot of individual. And I say that you are not trying to say body as something individual, as something from oneself. And on that point, Tantra, for example, in general, metaphysics, makes another idea of body. Maybe we can think that our body is not just an individual body, it's a metaphysical body, or even it's an institutional body. In what sense institutions are part of our body? In what sense culture are part of our body? So in that sense, I think that we can think that if we want to work with body in philosophical counseling, I think that we have to think to work with that metaphysical, cultural, institutional body. And I think that opened the idea to put in contact with Tantra, the idea to Tantra, because Tantra comes from Eastern, from another countries, and in those countries, the person, the individual, is not so important. It's more something metaphysical. So I agree with Lydia and Taisia and all of you that we have to move to another way of making philosophy, and maybe Eastern and even Mesoamerican philosophies can help us to work with body in this sense in philosophical practice. That's it.
Thank you, Pepe. Lydia?
Well, you know, talking about Mesoamerican, I remember from my staying in Peru, people dance from, you know, from like Jacques Brel talked about the Flamands who are dancing all their lives. The dancing together changes completely the relationship. It's very important. We, you know, dancing, the beats, the rhythm is like the body, but the expression is like the soul. There is in dancing mixing together of something that we really need to mix somehow, the same in music. Okay, now more specifically, Oscar, either you become a Fender Christ teacher like Schusterman became, or you propose to the council, Fender Christ, my best friend is his Fender Christ teacher. I thought of a place that give, you know, philosopher, medical doctor, Fender Christ, and other things in the same place for philosophical practice. I used to have a teacher in Israel was teaching logic. His wife was teaching dance, movement at the same time for the same gifted children. Now, Yamini, I understand you perfectly. I spent years trying to put back in the context Eastern philosophy so that we respect and understand the goal and the context, and not the way they were brought in the West as commercialized, the yoga as an exercise, physical exercise, the Buddhist as something else, and the Tantra, don't even talk about it. So really, I think we should rethink all that in Western terms, or universal or global terms. And I just, it's a call for everybody to cooperate on that and create something new in the 21st century. Now that we are older, we can talk, as Namel says, about things that if I were younger, I could not even mention.
Thank you, Lydia. And to finish, Narel.
Thank you, David, and everybody else. It's a wonderful thing for me to be able to talk with other people. I'm the only person in Australia that's doing anything like, or as far as I know, anything like philosophical practice. So thank you all. With regards to how I ascertain who I can touch and who I can't, I do like to be culturally aware of people's situation before I do that. And I have a wonderful friend from Afghanistan And I've known he and his family for about 20 years now. And of course, I hug the children all the time, and I hug the mother all the time. But even though I'm very tempted because I want to hug the dad, I feel like I'm leaving him out. I realize then that's just my need, and I can't invade his space because of a feeling that I just can't control. So he's very good practice for me with regards to keeping my natural understanding of touching people. With regards to that also, there's a wonderful, Yamina, you may well know of the mother who gives, is it called Darshan? She is, she's been to Australia several times, and she has hundreds of people that line up just for a hug. And I find that a beautiful concept. And I know people could be skeptical and all of those things, but I've seen her in practice. So yes, Tantra is another thing. Because I spend a lot of time as a Buddhist, of course, we have a very, very different attitude about Tantra or tantric, the tantric phenomenon than people that have polluted the idea. So thank you for raising that, Yamina.
Thanks. Thank you, Narelle. And thank you all. I think we'll past some minutes, but thank you also, Regina, for your moderation.
Yes.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. It was excellent. Excellent talks, excellent panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Regina.
Thank you. Thank you, Regina. And David, thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
What's the
You're
time?
welcome.
It's
in Australia, it's really late.
Past
It's really late. Midnight, past midnight. Thanks to be here, Narelle, Lydia, Pepe, and all the public, the audience. Well, and we see together in the next sessions.
Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias, David.
Thank
Gracias,
you.
Lydia.